It's episode 71 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is Juwel Haque.
I'd love to improvise.
I love it.
I love to improvise.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me again. Thanks for saying yes when I cheekily asked.
Well, sometimes all you have to do is ask, and then I feel we have lots of new things to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a year and a bit.
It's been a year and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about nursery originals first,
Okay.
in general, and then we'll get more specific.
Yeah.
What is a nursery original?
I don't know. It just seems wanky to me. I think nursery originals are original shows produced by the nursery that are a bit more, maybe more ambitious than what we normally see in London's improv and long-form improv in general. So, like, they might have like a clear aesthetic, or there'll be things like costumes and sets, and maybe even more of the sort of theatrical bent of the nursery's preferences, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe less so in my show, but we'll talk about that. Yeah, so there were a few before things fell through at the Edric Theatre. I haven't seen all of them. I saw the improvised myth book. That was a good one, and Open Roads, Michael's one, which they brought back for the last run at the theatre. Oh my God, they had the theatre! Wow. And Michael asked me to play at that one, so that was really cool. So that there was like 5 or 6 maybe before, and now there's another 3, and there'll be another 3 or so in the new year. Mine is one of the 3.
And we're going to come back to that. And we're going to talk about that in excruciating, some people might say painful detail. Let's just talk about Open Roads for a second. Can you remind us, for those that saw it or for those that didn't, what the concept was, what Michael's concept, or maybe what your interpretation of Michael's concept was?
I guess he wanted to take the road trip movie genre and do that in improvised form. It was based on a LARP that he played once, and that was like similarly based on the road trip movie genre. And I'm not steeped in movies at all. I'm not like a lot of improvisers that watch loads of movies and TV. But like for this, I did a bit of research and watched the movies that Michael suggested. So like Little Miss Sunshine, Y Tu Mamá También, I think, and the other one. The one that's Everything Is Illuminated. That was it. So I watched those 3, and it was like they're all really good movies and good watches. Well, for like I say, I don't know about movies, so I don't know how to criticize them really. But and there's similarities and themes that I feel like Michael wanted from the show. Things like the fact that the road trip itself, because of the way it's an escape from their usual reality, it can bring out certain like more honesty, I guess, in people, and more freedom, and undoes the inhibition they feel in their regular lives, I guess. It's less about sometimes it's less about whether they get to wherever they're going than what's discovered along the way. So that sort of thing is, I guess, what Michael wanted to hit in Open Roads, and I feel like we did a really good and fun performance of it on the day. And there were a couple of people that were from the original cast, and about 2 or 3 that Michael added, including myself. And a really fun cast to play with and show to do. And I feel like I was happy with how that went. And say that was a nice 25 minutes set at the theatre. And
So how was it arranged physically on the stage?
depends. Like, not all road trip movies are the same, so not all performances of this would have been the same. So you might do a scene or two before that isn't the trip. We just get to know the protagonist, and then you will do the actual trip. So whatever the vehicle is, probably a car, just build a car out of chairs, right? So, and there'll be one or two protagonists, and everyone else is playing support. And like, if we've noticed a want that the protagonists have, we can either help them along in some way with our support character, or make a problem for them. If there's a particular skill or a way that a protagonist solves problems, we can bring that out by presenting a problem with that skill in it, and that sort of thing. So Meredith and Eric Castellan were the protagonists, and Jackie Black and me and Stephen Beckett were playing support. And we just like, Meredith and Eric were great at just playing it straight and real, and the emotional connection between them, and also that allowed us three to be quite daft as well. So Jackie did a clown on a recumbent bike or something like that. Yes.
And what did you bring to it? Why do you think Michael wanted you on board? Was it the daftness? Because you can certainly play that, but you're not limited to daftness.
He said he wanted me because he thinks I do the organic, emotional depth kind of improv well, and I think so too. Don't you?
Yeah, I agree. I think I think you're right.
So I do like that stuff. So had I been the protagonist that day, I would have played it that way too. So it's one thing that I love narrative improv, and it's a thing that I get to do in narrative. Like, I think that's why I like the protagonist role. There are quite a few reasons I like any of the roles, but protagonist is great because like you don't necessarily have to take care of the funny; you just have to take care of your character's want.
So how did you establish who was the protagonist in Open Roads? And was it different from doing narrative in general?
On this occasion, we predetermined it.
Oh.
Wait, is that true? I think we predetermined one of them. I think Eric, and Meredith joined him of her own volition, and the other three of us just knew. Yeah, it's about them then. And I might have called that cheating, but like in most narrative improv I've done, you just discover it in the first scene or the first of two scenes or something. So that's kind of how I like to do it. But this time we predetermined at least half of it.
Fair enough. I think that's entirely fine. Mm. So, moving back to the Nursery Originals, you are, is the correct term Directing United?
Yes.
You are both the creator and the director of United.
Yeah, apparently so. I did that, people tell me. And so United is the second one, and it'll start while the run for the first one is finishing.
Which is The Owls Are
Not What They Seem. Yep, inspired by Twin Peaks, and it's Audra and Jonah directing that. I don't know Twin Peaks at all, but I'll be really keen to see what they've done with it. Sounds good, and I think a lot of improvisers have watched Twin Peaks are really into it, and I think they're buzzing for it as well.
Well, I have seen, not the new series, but I have seen the previous Twin Peaks. But what delights me is the idea of someone going along and seeing an improvised version of something, and then what they create in their mind as the original to be. And then if they then go and watch the original, I'm like, well, this is not what I was imagining at all. It's like when you've got a suggestion and you're acting out an established intellectual property, and some people in the group don't actually know anything about it. So
which is usually me.
So it's a delight watching them, watching the other people, and then trying to build on what the other people have done.
Yeah. And that, that just means you're not playing back the work, right? Yes, but I guess if you're doing genre work, you're probably trying to capture the aesthetic and like the sort of language that people used and costume and set and stuff, but more it's thematic, I think.
Yeah.
So You're not just hitting recognition laughs from, oh yeah, that does happen in that film a lot. Yeah.
Because that can be funny, but it's actually doesn't really take you anywhere. It's just like, oh, well done, you've watched a thing, you've remembered a thing, and then you've repeated a thing.
Yeah.
Well done, but it doesn't actually help the story or anything.
So I did a weekend intensive with Piggyback, and they were over, and that was awesome, obviously, and they're brilliant, and they do a lot of genre work, and I feel like they hit that idea that it's about themes as much as it's about how the thing looks and feels.
Is that why you don't watch more TV and films to understand the genres?
Yeah, that's exactly why. I want to be the one that screws it up. I'll say that, yeah.
Don't you think there's a responsibility, though, as an improviser, to be aware of TV programs and film suggestions that you get?
I'm beginning to. Well, I don't know if it's a responsibility, but I feel like
a duty.
I feel like the fact that I don't makes me a misfit and a recluse in the world of improv. It's like a very lonely place to be. Have you seen the Game of Thrones? No. I'll talk to someone else that has seen it. Have you seen the? Oh yeah, with the swords. Oh, do you remember? I'll just sit here and sort out my fantasy football team.
Well, I did a workshop with Chris Mead on popular culture and improv, and he used Game of Thrones as a suggestion, and his suggestion would be to play a troll. Just play a troll and just commit to it. And those that have seen Game of Thrones will go, ha, there are no trolls in Game of Thrones. Whereas those that haven't go, there's a troll, that seems to fit in with the world.
Right, yeah.
Well, as long as you commit to it, doesn't really matter.
Like not having much of it. I would have thought Trolls was in the sort of circle of expectations in that as well.
I would say that.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Broadly.
All right. Well, there we are.
Talking about fantasy football, that takes us back to United. What's the idea of United?
So, two things came together when I had this idea. So, one was I watched a few vlogs on YouTube, and there was one video that I watched that featured some guys, colleagues presumably, playing a pickup basketball game. Which it looks like they do every week or every whatever time of day that is, and it just reminded me of having played football with colleagues when I was working at a particular office, and just doing that regularly, playing football at school in sixth form and basketball at school, and like much of the time everyone's a really good person and just in it for the fun of playing the thing, and therefore everyone's really quite supportive of each other, of your own team, obviously. And so that means people aren't criticised for making a decision that goes wrong. People are encouraged to have, like in football, if I would take a shot and miss, I wouldn't be criticised for not picking a better option. I would have been encouraged to try again and, told well done for having a go. Because you need to have a go and shoot if you want to score, and sometimes there's the odd person who does care a bit too much about the result and is a bit critical of your teammates, and that can make your teammates risk averse, I guess, and afraid of fouling up in case you catch you hear something. If I find myself having a teammate like that, I double my efforts to encourage the rest of the team. And say, well done for having a go, or don't worry, you'll get that next time, or you made a mistake, dust yourself off and be alive to that possibility again, and that sort of thing. So usually it's fun and great, and like especially me preferring to be a creative player, that's something that I not depend on, because I think there's a part of you that needs to have enough faith in your ability to create whatever heat you're catching, but it's encouraging anyway. So there's that side of things, and just remembering how supported I felt and how encouraging it felt to be on a good-natured, well-spirited amateur sports team. And on the other side, there's I get to watch a fair bit of improv, and I would often see teams come along that they're relatively new. They're relatively new to each other and to whatever style they're playing, I guess. And sometimes I would see people hesitate on the wings or like shake a leg before they step onto an empty stage. And, you know, I know what's going on there. I've been there very often. I'm still there often. You know, you've got an idea and you're not entirely convinced it's going to go down the way you're hoping, or it's not going to be supported the way you're hoping it will be or understood. So yeah, I feel like there's a time interval between when you have an idea and when you put it on the stage, and in that interval, that's an opportunity for self-doubt to come in and you know, dilute your faith in the idea, and therefore when you do go and put it on, you're doing it maybe with less commitment, and you might be quite willing and ready to flake on it at the first opportunity. And I just feel like in that interval of time, like if there's no opportunity for self-doubt to come in, you're putting that offer out with all the commitment you want and need. If instead maybe if you heard something encouraging like go for it, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Get in there, my son.
Yes, sort of thing. If you heard something like that and therefore you didn't hear the voice of self-doubt, then that might just give you the push to put your thing down with a bit more commitment and belief. And after all, it isn't the offer that determines whether a scene is good or not. I think it's how well it's supported. Whether that is by people flooding in to play the scene, or whether that's by people making the choice to leave the actors on stage that are doing it and doing it great at the time, so that they're not messing up the flow and stuff.
I gave Juwel a significant look there, but I realised that doesn't work on podcast. That was a significant look of agreement, and it's like, oh.
How many jams have you been in, right? Where you see Stu's put his hand on his head.
Yeah, so once again, failing to understand the 71 episodes in how audio media works. Although in the jam situation, I'm sure I am as guilty as other people are. But sometimes just let the people do the scene. You are not in this scene. You do not need to be in this scene. Don't be in this scene. Sometimes, as you say, that's the great thing.
Yeah. So, people kind of need to understand that, like, the success of a scene isn't entirely down to the people that are in it. Sometimes it's, you know, if you could have been in it and chose not to be, and it's turned out great, you deserve credit for that too.
Yes, I think that's a really important point. Yeah, I entirely agree.
It's a John Stonian idea, by the way.
Well done. Well done, Mr. Johnston.
I just wanted those improvisers that may be a bit hesitant with their initial offers, including myself, to just have more faith in those ideas, so that they can be great, because it's the commitment and the level of support that determines that. And so I paired that idea with this other thing I was having of how encouraging it felt to be on a really supportive sports team, and it was like, how can I bring that feeling into, you know, long form improv? And it might just be as obvious as, for instance, two people do a scene and it's gone great and someone swept it. Maybe those two actually just on stage congratulate each other and high-five each other and backslap each other and say, great scene, well done. And then they go to the wings and the players on the wings are doing the same to them. Like, you know, as if, you know, you just had a great game as a footballer and you've come off as a sub to receive your standing ovation, and your bench is doing the same for you, right? Why not just let's see that rather than make it a feeling that we feel inside? Similarly, someone steps out about to start a scene, they're encouraged on, they're welcomed on as like, and like, you know, let's see what you've got. You know, we're here for you. Why not make that overt, right? And give people very obvious, so vocal and physical support for certain moves we make. Like starting a scene, ending a scene, even a sweep is a great move. So let's, you know, encourage and support the person who swept it. Those sorts of things. And so the more I thought about it, the more sports stuff I felt like I could feed it. And we should talk about it a bit more. And so this idea is something that I brought to the nursery's research and development jam one day a few months ago, and it seemed to feel really good for the people that did it, and also a couple of people who watched it being demonstrated said that it seemed to be an engrossing spectacle as well, which was a really pleasant surprise. And I thought that maybe this has a life as a show that people actually see.
You see, that was my concern. From a performer's point of view, yeah, it's brilliant. I just do a scene, goes well, get a back slap, brilliant. I can see why, from a performer's point of view, that's brilliant to watch. But I'm just worried as an audience member. I'm like, oh, well done. But,
Yeah, the feeling of like you sort of just did that for yourself, and I wasn't. Yeah, I was certainly wary of that feeling, and I still am, and that's a thing I want to get across to the cast. That let's do things that keep the audience on side, because I want the audience to feel like this is their team that they follow. As if a sports team, and so you want to see them do well, you want to see them try things.
You don't want the audience to be offside. There, we may have exhausted my sports references.
A half an hour ago, he told me he looked down on people that do puns, and join us.
Maybe it's because I'm normally unable to do puns that I look down on those that can. Maybe it's just jealousy inside my cold, dark heart.
Yeah, it's more fun on this side of the wall, Stu. It's about. There are ways to involve the audience the way sports teams do. So you could G up the crowd if you're in a particularly hot moment. You see footballers and other sports people do that all the time. Another idea I might have is like, if a particular improviser's had a really good moment and a great, they were in the middle of a great tag run or something as a really funny character or something, another team member could bring them out center stage and encourage the audience to chant their name or something, and just give them that really great feeling of being loved in that moment.
How about they get their T-shirt, they put it over their head, and they run out into the audience and round and come back on stage?
Yes, do that crowd surfing, or just go around high-fiving the audience. And I want the audience to feel like they're not just watching a thing and consuming it passively, but like they were part of what made it successful too, with their support and their energy feeding into, and the actors reveling in that and taking it and giving it back to the audience and stuff. So like I wanted to be relatively interactive for the audience in that way.
The idea of having the audience as supporters of an improv team is really interesting.
I want that, like obviously with this, there's so many teams in London and there's so much talent going on, and yet like maybe part of that glut means there isn't a great deal of affection for many teams, right? That there's, they're good, I like the people on it, rather than I love the improv they do, I want to go see them all the time, right? Hopefully I want people to feel that way about United, and I want the cast to use my tactics and develop their own tactics for making the audience feel that way.
So you're suggesting there are too many improv groups for people to grow to love a particular group?
I don't think that's the reason. I just think there are very few groups, and it can only ever be a few, right? That are just so well loved and like light up your brain when you hear their name and go, I love those guys or love those people, So I want, in a perfect world, United would have that sort of, the show would have that level of devotion to it, I guess.
So if you took it on tour, then people would go to the city, follow you, go to the city, see you perform away.
Come to see United. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the chants.
Yes.
Yeah. From the North Bank. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Bank.
North Bank?
North Stand.
What's Arsenal's old stand called?
Well, let's see. They had the clock. Yeah, they had a North Bank. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you were at Highbury, I guess. You mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're high enough in the North Bank, you could smoke some weed without getting spotted. So,
Well, I tell you what, I feel I'm learning a lot about sport today. And improv, obviously. But, wow, really.
So yeah, I just keep feeding sports ideas into this show idea. So, for instance, costume would be of the same colour, sports bib. The word bib is a problem for our North American friends because they think it's a baby's bib. They don't have that same word for a sports bib. So think jersey or vest, if you will, and what sportswear of your choice underneath. Like, yeah, I want the team to feel like they're a team, and that they're all together and all there for each other. And if one git comes out with a red bib while everyone else is in blue, no.
Are they the referee?
Maybe they're the ref, maybe they're the goalie, maybe they're just someone that wants to stand out. No.
Far be it. That's really the case.
Yeah, I feel like in my role as director, I might analogize myself to the team's manager. So whether I'm a tracksuit manager or whether I wear a suit and my Mac like Jose Mourinho, is decision to make.
I'm nodding as if I understand what these things are. So I will.
Very few improvisers might actually.
Well, this is interesting reversal because while you might feel cold and alone because you don't know the latest Games of Thrones, I do wonder if this is a revenge, and you're going. You're right. You're in my place now. This is where I know everything.
This is where I'm expert and king. Yeah, and I get to tell you some things. No.
Well, you have made sports sound like attractive, which is, an unusual thing for me. The way you describe, I'm like, yeah, that sounds quite good.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, recently I realised how little I enjoy watching top flight football now, and in general, it is actually quite dull to watch. And I'm like, hold on a minute, I've loved football ever since I was a kid. Have I changed a lot? This is a big deal I'm having an identity crisis. And I realised, no, wait, I do like playing still. I love. So so it's like at the amateur level, where it's all about the love of the thing, then yeah, hopefully you get to play some. But yeah, I still think at the very top level, there's, far too much money that makes teams too risk averse, and therefore leads to dull matches a lot of the time.
Very much like the improv scene.
Yeah, exactly. Just too much money around. Yeah. You just don't see original improv anymore. Everyone's trying to be the same show. It's a good formula. It works well done. Everyone's buying talent instead of developing their own.
Yeah, God. Everyone's playing fantasy improv.
Yeah. In their own heads.
In their own heads, yes. Yeah. Probably best place for it.
You say that, but the scenes I do in my own head are better than the scenes I do on stage.
Well, that's good, because it would be awful if... I don't know, would it be awful if... No, probably better the other way around, isn't it? I don't know. If you keep enacting terrible scenes in your head, you could probably stop, and that would be better.
Yeah, maybe.
So you've kind of described the style of United. What's the format going to be?
I don't have one. I don't feel like I need one. Yeah, if the cast decide on an idea among themselves, then let's facilitate and play that. But I think my preference, if I had any, would be to keep it freeform. And
cool.
I do have ideas for openings that tap into the sports metaphor. For instance, like a player's tunnel or a locker room. To generate ideas for the set going forward. I have ideas for a couple of group games that would sort of help to bring a set to generate callbacks and recurrences and hitting themes more. Yeah, so I have things, but I don't know that I have a rigid format or structure.
Cool.
Then I don't think the show needs one. I just want to like you see Harold teams all the time where some improvisers are stuck on the side going, is it 2B or is it 2C? Am I on? So, yeah, and yeah, I don't want that. I want, if you're doing the Harold right, you don't care if it's 2B or 2C. Just feel it in your feet and go and do it. Yeah, so I don't want. I want to let my players be free, and I want to sort of get out of their way a bit. That's the sort of director I imagine myself being.
Cool. So there are open auditions.
Mm-hmm. So if you'd like to audition for United, and I certainly hope you do, please go to thenurserytheatre.com/auditions and look for United on there. There's a list of 3 shows that are auditioning there at the moment. How cool is that? And find that one, click through, you'll see a form, please fill in the form. And if you get an audition, it'll be on the 23rd of September. And yeah, I'd love to hear from as many people as possible. Met so many lovely, wonderful people in my time in improv. I'd love to play with all of them, but obviously I can't put everyone on stage. That's 1, impractical, 2, unfulfilling for people, and 3, who's going to watch it? Because if they're all playing.
Yes, if you remove your audience because you put them all on stage, that is.
But in my head before this became a nursery original, this was I sort of intended this to be an open team with no commitment required. Just show up to the open rehearsals and you get to do a show if you're at a recent rehearsal, so you know the star. But then I just had this idea of, can I put on a show for the nursery originals when they were taking applications? I don't think it's this show, and then I don't think it's this show because all the originals prior just seemed different to this somehow. I think in sort of tone and aesthetic and theatricality and things. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought I could make it that way, right? This show does have a clear aesthetic idea. It's a sports team thing, right? And then on the final day, I think, of when applications were open, I submitted one, and yeah, they took it. The nursery guys took it with great enthusiasm, it seems, and like everyone that I've spoken to at the nursery about it are really excited about it, which is an amazing feeling. And yeah, hopefully the people listening and anyone who ever gets to read all the stuff I've written about it on the website feels that enthusiasm for it too, and it makes them want to audition.
Is there any type of improviser that you're particularly hoping to attract?
Yes, although not in terms of experience level isn't going to be a barrier. Style of improv isn't going to be a barrier, because if you have a style that you like and prefer and are good at, what I'm hoping for is a cast that will back you up in the way you want to play your game, and in return you'll back them up in their natural game. So the sort of improviser I want is someone that's going to be very collective minded and humble and generous in their support of other people. Someone that is willing to support a scene, not knowing what it is, but more in the spirit of I think you're awesome, and I think what you're going to give me is awesome, and I want to give it back to you, and really be there, right there for you on stage. And rather than what can happen sometimes is someone stepped out a bit unsure, and someone else has stepped out a bit feeling their energy maybe and being a bit unsure. It's I'm not sure I want to support you, but also I don't want to. Also, it's a prick move to leave you out there on your own, so I'm just coming on doing the right thing rather than with any sort of great enthusiasm. And that's what I want. It's you're really enthusiastic about supporting your castmates, and I think that's a humility thing, and yeah, you're very willing to do the backslaps, both literal, physical, and metaphorical, vocal. on which there's another couple. There's a point I guess I want to make as well, is that I'm aware of the possibility that this idea might feel a bit like the sort of behaviours you might imagine might feel a bit, for want of better phrases, laddie, a bit stag do, a bit, and I don't want that. I want women to be in this cast and to feel like they can be that way too. I want men who don't feel that they're that person to come on and be. Yeah, it's more just about sort of a committed engagement and support than it is about go on, my son, as it were. And yeah, and also I absolutely want quieter players to be on the team. Because I don't want people to be put off thinking that it's something for boisterous people. I myself am a strongly introverted person, and I partly thought this format thinking what would really help me. Like I say, I'm similarly minded in that I might get sort of self-doubting in my head. And, it's nice in your head because it's not out there in the world and you're not getting judged for what's in your head. Right? So, yeah, I want people of all across that, introvert spectrum to be in the team. Just as long as you're accepting of other people and ready to help them with their game, knowing that it will come back to you too, because your teammates are the same way. Yeah, don't want people that are like... quite egotistical and up for themselves and feel like this is their spaceship or something, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you have convinced me. I think this sounds a good idea.
Thank you.
And this is official endorsement from the Improv London podcast.
Yes!
This sounds a good idea.
Yeah, got the gold star.
Got the gold star.
There's 3 shows that are auditioning at the moment with Through the Nursery, and one of them's mine. Well, 2 of them are mine.
Tell me about the other one that isn't United then.
Okay, but first let's just give a quick nod to the Verbs, the Nursery House team, who are taking their, organic, emotionally led, I guess, improv, and making it musical.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
I know you're a great musical guy.
Thank you very much.
I like that thing too. So yeah, they're auditioning. They want new members. So if you like that style of improv and want to be singing about it, look on the auditions page too. And I think it's just email Stephen if you want an audition spot, right? But whereas my 2 have got a fancy form to fill in. I will official and stuff.
That's fancy. So tell me about the
the disconcerted.
Tell me about the destruction team. Tell me about.
I really want to fuck up improv.
You're going to bring sport into it. Oh no, that means
Deconstruction.
Yeah, so tell me about the Deconstruction team. What are you doing with that, and what is that?
All right. So talk about the format in a bit, but it's a format of long form improv that I'd had tastes of here, and like the odd Hoopla class with Steve, or Lloydie of the Maydays. I did a class with him on it, and saw it a couple of times at Hoopla showcases, and really like that format. It makes a show that feels like a whole piece rather than like sets of semi-related scenes that's still a bit disconnected. It feels like there's through line and theme and things, and like there's tempo changes, a narrative thread throughout, along with some really fun game stuff and premise stuff. Just really like that format a lot, and there isn't, to my knowledge, a team that does it in London, and I quite wanted there to be. And like speaking about improv a lot with other improvisers, and this being a thing I'd wanted to do, it came up quite often.
That's interesting.
And people are like, "Oh my god, I like it too. Yeah, we should totally do it. We should totally do one." And how many times that people say we should, and it never does.
Yes.
One of those people that I spoke to about this was Jules Munns.
Yeah.
That guy. And and the conversation took similar vein. Yeah, we should do this sometime. Then one afternoon, I'd seen him, and he'd just finished a rehearsal with the May Days, at which they did Decon, and he'd said he'd forgotten how fun he found it, and how much fun it was. So the we should thing started to gain a bit more strength then.
Cool.
And then later that night, after the show at the theatre that day, we were both at and helping to make that run work. We just sat outside. He was smoking, I think, and we just ended up talking about.
It's a nice bit of colour to the story.
Yeah, was I drinking something? Possibly a Orchard Pig. Is that what was the name of the cider?
I've not heard of that. That sounds very exotic.
It's at the Theatre Deli bar. It's pretty good, and also in the fridge here, I think.
Do check it out at the nursery Theatre Deli bar, or even other places where you can get alcohols from.
Yeah,
alcohols. Yeah. Odd bins. Is Odd Bins still going?
Stu, have you been drinking the alcohol? We somehow got round to talking about Decon again, and with even firmer conviction, and we decided there and then that we were definitely going to do it. And then in subsequent meetings, Jules was like, right, let's put down some performance dates in the new season and work backwards from there for a rehearsal cycle. And that was a moment where, what? This is happening. Oh, great. Oh, good. So this Decon team will have 2 shows in December in the nursery's new season of Improv. And from there, going backwards, a rehearsal schedule of Friday afternoons after the audition, which is in October, so a while away yet.
Is that another open audition?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, just with a fancy form to fill in as well. So Jules and I are going to co-direct a team that performs the Deconstruction in London for first time, I don't know, ages. I'm really excited to be playing this form.
So it's interesting. Rehearsal is going to be Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yes, and I am disappointed to be. We both are, obviously, to be excluding people that can't make that time slot. But we think there are enough people who don't do the 9 to 5.
Yeah,
that will be available, and that we'd be delighted to have on the team.
Or just bunk off work early on a Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
if that's the thing you can do.
Yes, and if you have flexi time, just work an hour extra on the other days.
Yeah,
and
come along.
Please do. There's so many people that I've spoken to that really love the format and wish they were doing it regularly in a team, and people that I know are going to be great in that team that I want to work with as well.
Can you explain the format? How does a decon work?
Can anyone explain the format? It starts with a scene between usually 2 characters that might take up about a quarter of the show. It's quite a long scene in which we see these 2 characters and the world they live in and the relationship to each other and the dynamics of that. And that scene is then used for as a base for the other improvisers to pull ideas to play new scenes out with. So there's a couple of different ways I've learned it, but in both those ways, one thing that bit is supposed to hit is what's the theme of the show. So, and you'd get that from the big themes that you've identified in that source scene. So after a first source scene that's really quite long and expansive and emotionally played, the next couple of scenes maybe are other scenes in which themes are hit. So then everyone is aware of what the themes are and that they will carry these through to the end. And so from there, we'd return several times to the base scene and develop that a bit. We may go forward in time. We may go back to when these people were younger and or when they first met or before. Just those two people again, those two characters. So they might not be people, and we hop between that source scene thread and these other fun interludes on the side that are either hitting theme or just hitting some idea that happened in the source scene. And yeah, so you've got in the same show this in organic, emotionally led, can be narrative-y, this thread of style of improv going through the whole thing, and on the other side some really fun and maybe fast stuff. So yeah, there's like variety of tempo and variety of tone in this show, and coming to a sort of, usually it comes to a run of really fast scenes, maybe a tag run, maybe just a run of short 2-3 line scenes and get a quick laugh and let's do another one, and at the end there's a final return to the source scene, which sort of takes all these ideas, well, not all of them, but certainly as many as they feel like, and feed them into this final bit. And it's sort of like a storm gathering pace and then at the end the storm exhausts itself, and then there's this space of breathing at the end. That's how I feel like the tempo is anyway. So yeah, I've not spelt it out in a structure of this happens, then this happens, then this happens, because I don't want people to think it's rigid like that. Yeah,
that sounds great. Yeah. You're also involved in some other groups.
Yeah.
So, Story Kitchen. What's new with Story Kitchen?
We're back. We took the summer off, and we're gonna have our monthly shows at the Miller again. This time, most of them will be the Maestro format, and then a big old. We're gonna go big with theatre sports in the December show. So yeah, I think the cast by and large prefer Maestro because we all, there's several reasons really, like everyone gets to play with each other instead of the sort of more stratified way we've done theatre sports. There's far less, I guess, match management and show management. Like, you could just play the scene that you're offered and not worry about worry less about whether, we've had a few games, do we need a different kind of scene, or we haven't had a song yet, we should do a song. There's a lot less responsibility from a player's perspective in Maestro, because it all falls on the directors. The two directors, they're in entire charge of like the journey of the show, the arc, and so it's a lot more fun and for the players than theatre sports might be. That's more sort of, you feel more responsible, I guess. Like, you have more responsibility, I should say, for the journey of the show and your set. For that, I guess there's other reasons why people like Maestro more, and I don't know. Personally, I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm happy to play either. I like them both so much. So yeah, we're going to mostly do Maestro and a theatre sports at the end. It might be themed, and I think there's a couple of theme ideas that the guys are really excited about. And me, being me, I don't know either genre well enough. I'm sure I'll play along. There's trolls in this, right? So yeah, really excited to be performing with Story Kitchen again. We rehearsed on Saturday, so it was great to see a lot of the guys again after the summer, and so we just practiced Maestro in rehearsal, and we practiced having different directors. So Maestro has two directors that offer scene suggestions to the players, And usually it's been Faye, the director of Story Kitchen, and Natasha, the assistant director. And like usually it's been them. In fact, it's almost always been them. Once we had Patty Styles. Oh, holy
Wow.
shit! Yeah, that was what an awesome. That was fucking awesome. What this has meant is neither of them have got to play Maestro. And
that's interesting.
yes, and disappointing for them both. And obviously, face up Story Kitchen because she wanted to play, right? So, yeah, we've been trying out different people in the director's chairs so that we could rotate the role. And I had a lot of fun doing it this time around. Yeah.
Yeah. So you enjoyed the role of director?
Yes, I did. I like. Yeah, just seeing what's there and what the players are willing to do, and just there's certain challenges or just theme ideas. Just you could even one time in the rehearsal, I asked for one player to come forward, so it would be a one-person scene, and Sarim stepped forward, and I said, "Oh, I don't have anything. Do you have something you'd like to do?" Sometimes the player does and they do it, and sometimes, as in this occasion, they say, "Oh, I have nothing," and I just went, "Okay, you have nothing. Go."
Wow.
And yeah, the scene was really quite funny. So like he just started with the line, "I have nothing," took off his watch. Julia Mittelman came on offering to take the watch off him, and he did, and then he just mimed undressing and having different teammates take each item of clothing off, and so now he was naked, improv naked, not real naked.
It's the best sort.
And I just went, I feel like he could still lose stuff. And so Nadine came on and like improv ripped his kidney out. So it was really
Wow.
funny stuff. And like, again, it just goes to show that the start isn't the whole scene.
Yeah.
You don't know that's not enough information for you to know that just what the rest of you do with it.
Yes. It's never about the suggestion. It's always about what you do with it. Yeah, that's important.
Yes.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so we're doing that. We're going to have a couple of cool guest directors in this season. Like, I think, the next one we're going to have Sean Kinley, who's one of Keith Johnston's improv kids, and like was learning it there at Loose Moose along with Patty Styles, and like, it's going to be a huge privilege.
Cool.
So Story Kitchen's back. Back at the Miller and the odd show elsewhere. Exciting.
And you're also in Piggyback.
That happened recently. So
you seem to be the go-to guy. It's like
that's not true.
It's like, we've got this thing. We need somebody who can handle it. Juwel can handle it. He'll come in. He'll just do it. He'll do a good
You
job.
say that, but I auditioned initially for Piggyback and didn't get on. So this is it wasn't then, but like I was asked afterwards.
You must have been very close.
Maybe. I don't know. But so this is the thing that Audra set up. Audra Goffney, who you should have on.
Yes, I have asked her.
Good. Great. I'd love to hear from her. So she did it in Seattle, and it's a show where 3 stand-ups are invited on to perform a set that the cast haven't seen before, and the cast use the stand-ups, is that the plural? The comedians' material to inspire a narrative play. And I just love that idea. We've seen, I've seen sort of stand-up inspire improv right before, and like playing that. But the idea that it could inspire a narrative set, that was really interesting, exciting. So obviously why I auditioned, and then why when I was asked later on, I was like, hell yeah, I still want to do that. It's a great cast of people and a really good show idea. I've not played with the guys yet, but like there's a couple of shows in the new season both at the nursery and at Hoopla, I think, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah, so I can't wait to get on stage with that show myself. But yeah, I've seen it, and yeah, really fun. So yeah, Piggyback, man.
What is your signature move? What do you do that people go, classic Juwel? He always brings that move, always brings the house down. Because you're in such a variety of shows, you know, you're directing nursery originals, but you're in Story Kitchen, you're in Somewhat Theatre, you're in Piggyback, you're in Machine for Fools, you're in The Society, you're in T-. It's such a range of different groups.
In fairness, I should say, I'm not in T-, I'm not in the cast proper, but I've guested with them a couple of times.
In my heart. And that's all that counts. In my heart, my head and my heart, you're a member of T-.
No, yeah.
I've never seen them.
You should. It's a really fun show.
So yeah, what's classic?
My
Juwel?
French accent. What's my signature move? I don't know. Fucking hell, I don't know. What would you say it is? Because like this is the thing, right? Improvisers can't self-observe, so we don't, or at least I don't, know what is uniquely or distinctively me.
Yeah.
So it's like, sometimes I think, what am I good at? Or what am I better at than a lot of people? And I don't know. I just rely on other people to tell me. I go, oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
I'm not very good when people turn this around and start asking me questions.
Oh, that's why you set the thing up instead of wait for it to be set.
Questions, I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to have a think.
Let's see. Maybe it's the thing we mentioned at the top, where it's like, obviously I love being funny in improv, in life and stuff. But also improv is more to me than that. I want to tell stories, and I want to connect with an audience in other ways. Like, I love hearing an R for something the show did, and especially for something I did or said. Just other reactions as well. Like when Piggyback were over, they performed a set in this building, in the Nursery Training Centre, and that even made me cry. That was so good. For like the depth of, or how well they played a particular relationship on stage, and for how that was similar to the analogous relationship in my life. And yeah, I want those things to happen as well. And I play like that. Like I don't play for laughs. I just play whatever. I try to play whatever the reality of the character is, and sometimes it's like a reluctant hero or something. So yeah, just try and lead with the emotion of my character, and that can lead to funny, and it can also lead to touching or engaging in some other way. And yeah, maybe my signature move is that I don't try to be funny. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I made this.
That's improv!